Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to your post-match Raw on AI Pro. We're doing this live on Discord as well, so if you're listening to us live, do join in there in the chat and we'll try and get to a couple of your comments if we have an opportunity at all. I am podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland, and I am Trev Downey, and I'm joined to give their immediate reactions to Benfica 1, Liverpool 3 in the Champions League from the Estadio de Luz by Dave Hendrick and Karl Matchett. Dave, a very, very odd game. We, to be fair, absolutely destroyed the opposition in the first half, offered them a window of opportunity in the second, and then struggled to get what I think was overall a deserved result in the end, late in the day. Overall, it's tremendous away result to take home into that second leg. Not quite in the category we were all hoping for, where the tie was dead, but at the same time, not a million miles off that.
No, not a million miles from it at all. I like you, thought our first half performance was as close to perfect as you were going to get for a team that had never played together before. Like, that 11 have never started a game before, and there was a couple of little hiccups early on. The first 15 minutes was a bit frenetic, and then once we settled into the game, once Thiago found his rhythm, once Naby started finding the little pockets of space that he operates in, we were just dominant and all over them. And if we had brought our finishing boots, and if a couple of our players were maybe an inch or two taller, we're probably 5-0 up at half time, because we missed a couple of big chances. There was one, what should have been big chance, that was just a little bit too high for Mo. And they offered so little. They had one shot that I can remember in the first half that troubled Alisson. Didn't even trouble him all that much. It was pretty much straight down his throat. And, you just felt like we could control this game. Second half, they came out, got their goal because one of our players made a mistake. It got a little bit frenetic again. And then Klopp made his changes. And I thought they badly affected us. I thought we lost all our shape, we lost all our control. And up until about 80, I felt like if there was going to be another goal, they were as likely to get it as us. And then they seemed to run out of steam. We get our third. And then we should have gotten a fourth right at the death. We should have scored 6 or 7 tonight. We were very, very good for a big patch of the game. And then the last 10 minutes, or last even 6-7 minutes, as they ran out of steam. But we'll take the win. Absolutely. 3-1. Finally got to see the midfield that most sensible people have wanted to see for a long time. All things considered, you can't really be too upset. And City had an absolutely horrible evening playing against Diego Simeone's band of shithouses, who dug trenches and parked buses all over the Etihad. And they escaped a 1-0 victory, but they now have to go to Madrid and hold on to that, which means Sunday becomes really tricky for them. Whereas for us, we're in a more comfortable position now.
Yeah, with everyone with a little bit of time in their legs, and hopefully Fab's injury aside, looking comparatively healthy as well. These are all good things. And Karl, I mean, to say that we're handily placed going into the second leg would be a kind of an understatement, because we are at home and we know what that means. Did you see enough from them to suggest that there will be a very real challenge facing the Reds in order to progress to the semi when we play that return match?
Well, yeah, sure. If we're not on our game, and not just in tonight's first leg, but also against Ajax, to be fair, where they were behind a couple of times and provided the kind of response that they needed and the fight to come back from behind more than once. So, if you're not on your game at this stage of the Champions League against this level of opposition and better, of course you're going to struggle. And I think, in all honesty, the big strengths that we saw from Benfica tonight, with how quickly they can play into spaces and how quickly they get forward people in support counterattacks. If Liverpool were still playing in the same way as they were, let's say 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, yeah, I'd worry that there was still another 3-1 in this tie, and it could go either way. But the way Liverpool tend to play now is a lot more controlled, a lot more dominance for larger spells in matches. Yes, we give up some counter-attack and spaces and all the rest of those things that make commentators get very, very excited and think that we're going to concede 5 times somehow, but we don't really. We know how to play that way, and we know how to control the game and the territory of where the game is played. And unless Liverpool are imaginably bad in the second leg, I don't foresee any way of us giving up so many chances that they do score at least twice.
Yeah, I think that's fair assessment. And look, there's lots of interesting things to talk about in relation to them and in relation to us. And we should probably do that most effectively by looking at the details of the match itself. So we'll try and get ourselves towards that. Before we do, as per usual, we'll take a quick chat about the lineups. As Dave said, the midfield of Fab, Thiago and Naby Keita is one that has been long desired to be viewed by many Reds. An opportunity to see that this evening from Jurgen, who only other change there in that defensive and midfield area was to bring in Ibu Konate for Joel Matip. And he went with a front three of Salah, Mane and Diaz, and basically everybody's on the bench. So it's all looking pretty rosy for Liverpool. I don't think anyone could have argued about that lineup, and I suppose there are sort of little quibbles you might make as regards which is the most important game, this one or the one at the weekend, and do you have to do certain things. And I don't see that he got anything too wrong there at all. I was pretty happy with that. Feel free, both of you, to chime in on the Liverpool lineup if you think there's a point of significance to do so. But I'm very interested to talk about the opposition with you guys, because, like I say, you're both more in the know about them than I am. And they started out, you've got to love any team that's got a lad with the name of Odysseus in goals. That's tremendous, mythical already. They had Gilberto, Grimaldo, Vertonghen, Everton, Darwin Núñez, Rafa, Weigl, Otamendi, Taarabt and Ramos. And that's the kind of numerical order as opposed to the order of the players on the park. They've an interesting setup. Maybe get you to talk to me, Karl, a little bit about that shape that they play in, and then I might look at one or two of the players in a little bit more detail with Dave in a sec. So just in terms of how they are set up, was it typical tonight of what they've done so far? And was that their premium lineup? In other words, can we expect to see pretty much that 11 again at Anfield?
I wouldn't expect it to be too different. I think the only thing I would say is that maybe Gonzalo Ramos, the second forward that they had, probably played a little bit deeper tonight than he would do domestically. There's not. I wouldn't say that there was a clear 1 and 2 between him and Roman Yaremchuk, but obviously against a bigger opponent, there's sometimes a bit of a switch to 4-4-1-1. The two wide players that they have, very, very narrow, out of possession, and then very high and very quick to stretch play on the counter-attack and when they're in attacking areas. So, whether it's a 4-4-2, a 4-4-2 or a 4-4-1-1 doesn't really matter too much in terms of the general setup of them. They will always have one of the forwards dropping in out of possession. Núñez, obviously leading the line, is the main guy, and you could see a lot of that tonight with his channel running. You could see a lot of that with his hold-up play up until he went down rather easily, let's say about 6 times. For players who could come in for the second leg, I think apart from Yaremchuk, who I just mentioned up front, who came on a sub, I think maybe you're looking at João Mario as maybe a second central midfielder instead of Adel Taarabt. Beyond that, I wouldn't expect any changes at all if they don't have to.
Yeah, João Mario. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I've never really been 100% sure what it is that we have in Adel Taarabt. Obviously, we all remember him from earlier days, and I don't know. I'm still not sure whether he's actually quite good or not. I want to see more of him, I guess, is what I'm saying there. Dave, in terms of that lineup that they started with, we've already sort of spoken a little bit, and certainly before the mics went live, about Darwin Núñez, and what he offers and can offer, and he's clearly their standout player. But in terms of other lads there this evening who sort of put a bit of a shift in, I was quite impressed with the right back Rafa Silva as well. I thought he did quite well. And you know, I think it was Ian Darke who was on commentary for BT, and he went on about 2 games I'd missed because of family dramas, where against Ajax he reckoned that both Vertonghen and Otamendi had been immense, I think was Ian's word, in those 2 ties. I failed to see that, but so I can't assess. What did you make of their showing overall tonight, and was there a standout for you as well outside of any of the ones that we've brought up already?
I thought Grimaldo did quite well up against Salah. I mean, you're never going to have an easy day against Salah, but I thought he stuck to the task fairly doggedly. I wouldn't agree with Ian Darke about Otamendi and Vertonghen against Ajax. Certainly not in the first leg. In the second leg, fine. They did play very well. In the first leg, Benfica's defence was a little bit at 6s and 7s. And if Ajax had been more clinical, they would have won the game comfortably. Ramos, like Karl said, I thought he played a little bit too deep for what his skill set is. I think there's more to come from him. He's one that can play more advanced. I was surprised that El Tarap started, and I thought he was poor. I thought he was probably their worst player. Gilberto did a good job at right back up against Luis Diaz, and he had a lot of help from Rafa Silva, and the 2 of them together do have a good understanding, and they're dangerous going forward as well. So, look, I thought they played well as a team. They were just outmatched. They were up against a much better group of players. Clearly, none of those players get in our 11. The only one that has the potential to do it is Núñez. Their centre-backs, when we were less predictable and we drew them out, we were able to get behind them quite easily. There's no real foot speed there. Vertonghen's never been quick. Otamendi's lost some of his pace and is a bit overly aggressive at coming forward for the ball, so he will leave space behind him. There's something to like about how they go about things and how aggressive they are, but at the same time, there's a ceiling on what they can be because there's just not a whole lot of really good players. I mean, the best centre-back they own is Lucas Verissimo, who's out injured at the minute with a cruciate ligament injury. No relation to the manager. Him, Grimaldo, Weigl, Rafa Silva, Everton and Núñez, I think, could all play in the Premier League. But at the same time, I think only Núñez could play for a top 4 team, like an every game starter for a top 4 team. I think the rest are somewhere in the mid-table, and that kind of speaks to the gulf between where we are and what they are. And it's not their fault, it's just the circumstances of who we are as a club and what league they play in.
Can we just take a minute there that Dave's just mentioned that Verissimo, the manager, and Verissimo, the defender, are not related to each other, and comment on BT kindly informing us that Gilberto, first name of Benfica defender, and Gilberto, first name of former Arsenal midfielder, are not related. That was some stunning insight that they provided with us. I didn't actually hear them do the same thing when they discussed Steve McManaman and Steve Harkness earlier on in the programme, but it was nice to hear all the same.
To be fair, I did see that Michael Owen continually referred to Thiago Alcantara as Thiago Silva and wondered if anyone had told our Thiago that he's been going by the wrong name for a number of years.
Oh, God almighty. Oh, wow. That's tremendous. Jesus. Well, speaking of Jesus, the referee for the night was Jesus Gil Manzano. He got the ball rolling in the first half. A very interesting looking fella is young Jesus there. He has the head of what you could only call a trainee Garda. Dave, you'll be able to relate to this.
Straight out of Templemore.
Straight out of Templemore. He's a long career ahead of him, chasing down kittens out of trees and telling lads to cop on outside nightclubs. That's for sure. But the
Definitely
first half,
getting posted somewhere like, like Birr, County Offaly or somewhere. You don't want it to be too big of a place, but he'd be a good strict lad for the miscreants in a town like Birr.
he just looks like a serious young man. On 3 minutes in the first half, we have our first opportunity. It's a Sadio header, which is over the top after a great ball swung over by Robbo, to be fair. And Luis Diaz looking quite bright in those early goings, getting on the ball and carrying it forward with that kind of intensity and intention that we like to see and that we've been so used to seeing since he's come to the club. The unfortunately named Everton closed down a Trent pass and that went out for a goal kick soon after that. On 7 minutes there was another opportunity. Diaz puts a ball in which just evades both Sadio and then Mo. It's an unfortunate scenario because it was a good decent bit of dangerous play and a really decent opportunity. On 8 minutes, just a minute later, Sadio puts Mo in with a beautiful back heel and he is just about getting there, gets a toe poke to the ball to try to angle it past the keeper on the near post in his usual Mo position, but it's deflected out for a corner. We had, at that point, within the first 8 minutes, I think, or 10 minutes at least, seen 3 separate overhit diagonal balls, one by Virgil, one by Thiago, one by Robbo, and you were kind of hoping at some stage lads to stop pinging balls over Mo's head and that they'd start to find their marks. And in 11 minutes, Trent helps the ball on to Mo Salah, and then Naby Keita has a shot saved and follows up with a cross, but it's kind of straight at the keeper. And, we really do have our tails up and it's quite dominant from the Reds at this point. 40 minutes, another bit of decent build-up play, and with a kind of tokenistic Thiago shot over the top. And then on 16 minutes, Karl, we are 1-up. It is Ibu Konate. He's kind of on the 6-yard line to the right, rises to head Robbo's corner down into the ground and home. It's a beautifully executed goal, and it really sort of had the feel at that stage that we could have romped away with the tie, and that feeling, like both myself and David said, sort of stuck with me throughout the rest of the half, and you were kind of expecting to continue into the second. But a very dominant performance by the Reds in those opening 15 to 16 minutes, and it's no wonder really. I think that's the 8th away win for this team in a row, which I believe is a club record, which speaks, I think, a lot to what Jurgen Klopp is doing with the club just now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I have to say that even before Konate scored, I was speaking in the build-up to the game with someone about Joe Gomez's performance at the weekend. Obviously, he had a very, very good game. He wants to be playing centre-back, and then after you have a good performance, he'd probably have been hoping, not certain, but hoping that he might have been in with a shout if there was going to be a change of flipping from right back to centre-back for this match. And then when Konate comes in and has the first half that he did, I mean, it was very, very good. Even before the goal, I think there were 3 moments where you could see all of those really, really good attributes that Konate has as a modern central defender, which are perfect for the way Liverpool want to play at the minute. There was one really, really good recovery run in behind Van Dijk. There was a foot race with Darwin Núñez, who was about 2 yards ahead of him at the start, and Konate beat him and then outmuscled him. And then there was another lovely little tackle on the edge of the penalty box as well. Now, all of these things, we've seen them a few times with Konate across the season when he comes in just for the odd match, and I think that in itself is quite impressive that he can just pick up after 2-3 weeks on the sidelines and play the way that he does. But we also want to see that at the other end, that he looks really, really capable of. He's very dominant in the air in terms of defensive duels and clearances and the rest of it, and he's not very good at all at directing headers usually in attack. He's even said this himself. It's something that he needs to improve. And when he came running through Everton, I think it was, for the header itself, I was expecting it to go about 7 yards over the bar, to be honest, because his technique on the run is not always that good. But it was a great header, really good delivery, very, very good finish as well. And like you say, we were cutting them open several times, like for really good one-on-ones or almost one-on-one chances that could have been a square ball. A couple of times I think we floated a few crosses in that could have been played along the ground as well. And it did look at that stage as though we could go on and maybe even finish it by half-time.
I just want to mention, Karl mentioned it there, the one-on-one with Ibu and Nunes where the ball was played over the top and he goes stride for stride. And I mentioned this before we went live. Like, the commentator just passed over that like it was normal. Darwin Núñez is an absolute beast. He's rapid, quick, and he's really strong. And Ibu matched him stride for stride, never even looked like he was struggling, and then just bullied him to the floor. And people just carried on like it's normal. And I'm sitting there going, what have we just seen? If Virgil did that, it would be replayed endlessly. Like, I don't think people fully grasp just how special this young guy is. What is he, 21, 22? And he's already a match for one of the best young strikers in the world. We've seen him go into big games and just have very casual 8 out of 10 performances. I know he makes a mistake on their goal. But aside from that one mistake, which the one thing we know about him is he won't even think about his goal after that. He'll be so focused on that mistake and making sure that doesn't happen. But aside from that mistake, he's right in contention to be man of the match tonight. And that's stepping in after a couple of weeks sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah. It's absolutely fair comment. And to continue the theme that Karl's introduced there, I think if you and I take it through to pretty much the end of the first half, including our second goal, the proof of that particular pudding will be seen. But you have to hold your hand up as well and admit that there's at least one excellent chance for the opposition. One half chance in this as well. So after Ibrahima Konaté's goal to pull us one up, on 19 minutes we see more excellent play by a possibly offside Sadio Mane. His cross should have been buried by Naby Keita, but his header was kind of poor in terms of the connection that he makes with it. 22 minutes, the half chance I spoke of occurs where Everton broke down the left and hit the side rigging. Now, Steve McManaman was very critical of Virgil van Dijk, who should have got closer, according to Maka, whereas it was patently obvious that he had gone to exactly the right spot to close off any potential shot across the bows, in my opinion. But, you know, what do I know? Maka is the man after all. 23 minutes, we see a great move, which ends with a Naby through ball to Luis Diaz, and he takes it in his stride and tries to dink it across the keeper, but the keeper gets there. It's a lovely bit of football, lovely little move, almost perfect. And on 27, a Robbo cross just over Mo's head, one of those ones you were chatting about earlier on, Dave. It's an open header for him. He's only a few yards out, but the ball's just a little bit too high. And then on 32 minutes, that good chance that I spoke about is Otamendi, who should connect with a header from a corner. It's a great chance. He should bury it. He's kind of point blank range-ish, but he doesn't, and they don't. And within a minute, we're 2-0 up, and it is Sadio Mane this time, Dave. An outrageous diagonal ball from Trent from left to right, picks out Diaz, who's raiding into the box. Diaz heads square and just back a little bit, just enough to Sadio Mane to keep, who kept himself onside and swept home. It's an absolutely gorgeous goal, a real, just beautiful Liverpool goal. Everything about it, from the gorgeous sweep of the pass to the expert execution of the assist and the finish, just absolutely delightful to watch, and really no less than this team had deserved for their performance in that first half, I thought.
No less at all. They absolutely warranted the second goal. The football that Liverpool were playing was tremendous. We were starting to really see that midfield hum. Trent was getting more and more involved. Like you mentioned, there was the couple of headed chances. Naby, if he was a couple of inches taller, he gets a far better connection with that. But Naby had twice in that opening spell just drifted into pockets of space in their box, completely unmarked. And it shows what, because of the movement of our front three and the other two midfielders, it shows what's there for an intelligent player who knows how to find space if they're willing to go and find it rather than waiting for the ball to come to them. So that was promising. The goal itself, the ball from Trent is absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. For so long now, we've been hearing about Harry Kane's passing and how is Harry Kane the best passer of a football in England. Are you people out of your fucking minds? Did you see what that young man from right back did today? The 2 passes he played in the first half are among the 5 best passes I've seen anywhere in Europe today. And this season rather. And he did them as casual as you like. Like that.
You mean the one on 44 minutes
for Salah? Yeah,
oh,
I mean that's outrageous. It's obnoxious how good it is. The one for Mo, like he plays it over the top with enough backspin that as it bounces, it dies and just sits perfectly for Mo to run onto. This one is absolutely perfect for Diaz and gives Diaz the decision to either head it on goal or to do what he did and just head it back across for Sadio. It's absolutely outrageous how good Trent is. And this is him coming back, having just been, quote unquote, injured for a couple of weeks. Like, there's no way he's even 100% if he has had the injury. And yet there he is playing passes like that, like it's absolutely nothing. And then, other people are being talked about as if they're even in the same stratosphere as him, as a passer of the football. There's no one that can match him. He's 23 years of age and he's already in the upper echelons of the best right backs ever. He's redefining the position. He's by far the best in the game right now. And he may well be the best long passer of a ball in the game today. Like, there's some sensational passes around like De Bruyne and Cruz and Thiago, but for a long pass, I don't think anyone is on Trent's level. The diversity of pass that he's capable of, like from absolutely anywhere, he can just put the ball wherever he wants. And it looks easy for him. It's sensational. It's stupid how good this fella is.
He has no rival in that category, Dave.
No.
In terms of long pass, no rival. And it's not like his short passing is anything other than wonderful as well. But there's literally nobody who can strike a ball with that technique. Look, anyone who's ever played the game, at any level, there's you can see a real baller in the way that they strike a football, the way they strike it, the way they make connection. This guy, it's sort of so graceful. His contact with the ball is always so graceful and so deliberate. So yeah, occasionally he'll get things wrong, but when he gets them right, they're so perfect. Like, as you say, passes die in front of strikers, or they just hold up that perfect amount to let the lad get there in time. I just want to echo what you're saying. I hope people are really, really reveling in what we get to witness. We're getting to see this guy.
We may well be witnessing the early years of the greatest Liverpool player of all time. Like, I think he's already working his way into that conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I never thought we would see an academy prospect, an academy talent, an academy player as good as Gerrard. And yet, for the next 20, 30 years, because Gerrard was just so special. But Trent is already working his way into that. He is going to surpass Stevie at this club. He is going to retire as maybe the best player the club's ever had. And he's going to do it from right back. He's going to be the best academy product of all time. He is unbelievable. And he can do it till he's 35, 36. We could get another 13 years of this because it's so easy for him. It's actually disgusting how easy. Like you said, you can, at any level, you can just spot somebody who is too good for the players that are around. Trent is playing in one of the best teams in the world, week by week in the best league in the world and in the Champions League. And 9 games out of 10, he is too good for the other players on the pitch. I really don't think people understand how good he is. And People will knock him because, Gary Neville says he can't defend. Who cares what Gary Neville says? Gary Neville had good centre-backs carrying him up and down the pitch for years. He was garbage himself. Beckham spent most of his time at United stood on Gary Neville's toes doing his defensive work for him. Like, he doesn't get in the England team. Who cares? Who cares about Gareth Southgate? Fella's a PE teacher. He was a failed championship manager before he got the England job. Who cares if he doesn't put him in the team? The best club manager in the world right now, if he had one player that he could pick to bring to the next job he might take in 2 years, I will guarantee you right now it will be Trent. If Klopp was to leave and go anywhere else and was told you can take one player, I guarantee he takes Trent.
Yeah, it's a remarkable situation to find yourself sort of like obviously a little bit sort of outraged on behalf of the player himself, who for his own pride you want to see him being selected for his country. That in a simple way, that's what you want to see. But then every other party is screaming, "This is wonderful. Long may it continue." I think the only thing that may go against us here is that if Big Gaz Southgate keeps saying some of the things he's been saying, there's a couple of fairly disgruntled lads there in Qatar. He might be as well off stay away from any light aircraft for a while, Gareth, if he knows what's good for him, because there's definitely some ill will heading back his way from what I can see of late. In terms of the balance of that first half, there is a token Everton dig at Ali on 36 minutes. It's low, it's straight at him. And there is another good opportunity where Diaz cuts in on 38 minutes and digs one low and just wide. And that chance that Dave and I have spoken about where Trent plays that outrageous ball forward to Mo, who just can't seem to ease it past the keeper. And, you know, Karl, let me just segue into the second half by talking to you about something that's on everybody's minds and nobody's asking. Like, there's no correct answer here, but I'm anxious to get your take or your feel on it. As you're watching Mo at the moment, there's not a lot we can do. We have to keep playing him. We just have to keep playing him. The games are running out. They're massive games. We have to keep playing him and hoping that, you know, he's going to click back into primo Mo Salah. He's just not there at the moment, and things just aren't working out, and he's just at half a pace short, or finish just half a yard wide. In fact, most of the shots that he's getting aren't actually getting to the target even at the moment. A lot of block shots, stuff like that. As you watch him currently, do you have a little bit of anxiety around that? Because look, we have plenty of other wonderful footballers that can always pull up a few trees if Mo's not managing it. But what I would like to be seeing, at least if the goals aren't going in, is that his passing and contributions in that regard go back to where they were. And I'm just not sure any part of Mo's game is where it should be just right now. All chat about why aside, nobody needs to analyse that now. We're just talking about the reality of our world right now, which is there are 4 trophies that the Reds could win. We want all of the fucking trophies, and if we want all of the fucking trophies, we're going to need Mo Salah to be at his best. Do you see that as a remediable situation, Karl, or is it just something that may not get right again because of all the football this kid has played?
You're a greedy man, Mr. Downey, first of all.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Good boy. Look, there are 2 things, right? First of all, there's Salah against the Salah that we saw in the first half of the season. Now, that was probably unsustainable because he was ludicrous. He was just unbelievable. He was not just a match winner on a nearly every single game basis, but some of the goals, some of the moments he had were like, if you saw them once in a career from a player, you would say that was like easily their standout moment and all the rest of it. And he was doing it like every 2 games at one point. He was ridiculous. But then there's just normal form, normal good Salah, you know, normal good Champions League standard footballers who we need at the club. And he is obviously on the ball below that level right now. Now, I don't think that he has to come out of the team or anything like that, but because of the options that we've got and because of the games that we have coming up now in the next, literally the next week, Man City, Benfica, Man City, I think that there is at least not even necessarily a conversation to be had, but something to think about. And only Jurgen Klopp can answer this because of two reasons. One, he's the only one who picks the team, that's obvious. But two, because he has a very specific and a unique way of managing his players and his squad. And he has, for months and months at a time, backed Sadio Mane, backed Roberto Firmino when they're not playing particularly well, when they're not scoring goals, when they're not racking up the numbers. And he will point to the fact that they're in the positions, the fact that they work hard off the ball, the fact that they are undergoing their tactical instructions from a defensive standpoint in terms of being in place to cut out the passing lanes and all that sort of stuff. I don't think that Salah is not doing any of that stuff. So I think that from a managerial or a coaching perspective, there's enough there to say that Salah is still doing a job, even if it's not the main job, which is him as a goal scorer and provider. So I don't immediately think that he needs to be out of the team for that reason. But on the flip side, Klopp is one of the most ruthless managers around. As nice as he is and as good a guy as he is and a very, very good manager, he's also ruthless. We've seen him take the captain out. We've seen him take players off when they're performing terribly. We've seen him take all of the big names at the club off the pitch when he needs to, or just leave them out for a big game if he decides that that's what needs to be done. So I don't doubt that if he sees in training, if Salah's head is particularly down or the touch is really, really poor between now and Man City, for example, I don't doubt that he'll bench him. And it's not just the ruthlessness, but the fact that all those times when he's backed Mane, when he's backed Firmino, we haven't had the depth in attack that we have now. It's a world of difference saying Sadio will be all right, he'll get through this spell, and not putting in a really, really out of form Divock Origi, or I can't even think of the other forward options that he's had over the last couple of years, but we wouldn't have turned to them as starters if we didn't have to, sort of thing. It's very different now. Even Jota, who I don't think is anywhere near as good as the other forward players in terms of their link play, their one touch, their passing, their ability to open play with switches, which are accurate more often than not, that kind of thing. We still know that he's a match winner. He can have a stinking game for 58 minutes and score twice after 60 and 62. That's what Jota can do. And in a game against Man City in particular, which is obviously there's still games to go after it and anything can happen, blah, blah, blah. This is the title, isn't it? Let's be honest. If we lose against Man City, that's probably the title gone. If we win against Man City, I think most Liverpool fans would back us to go on and win the title. So it's kind of the title here and now. And in those games, the very, very smallest of details can decide it. And that's not just in terms of do you score a goal or not, but do you concede a chance or not? And do you cover all the spaces that you need or not? So it's at the very least something for Klopp to think about, which when it comes to Salah is A, unusual, and B, not ideal. I ultimately expect that he will start, but I wouldn't be entirely surprised if he was used in, let's say, the same way as at times Gini Wijnaldum was. Angry Gini off the bench in a couple of big games when he got left out to kind of make the point that your form has dipped or you're not quite there or you're not exactly on top of your game right now, and maybe away from home, maybe he wants, I don't know, let's say Jota down the right for really, really good working back and tackling and all the rest of it, because as you say, Salah is at the minute some levels below where he's capable of being. And if you only get 30 minutes of him in a burst off the bench, maybe overall that is going to give Liverpool more output in this specific game than if he starts and doesn't play well for an hour.
It's a nice change though that we could leave Salah out, start any three of Jota, Firmino, Mane or Diaz, compared to 4 years ago when Salah went off in the Champions League final and the best option Klopp had on his bench was Adam Lallana to come on and run around like a headless chicken for 65 minutes. Like, the growth in our club and the development of our squad and the improved quality can be highlighted in just that. We've gone from having Adam Lallana, a midfielder, to be kind to him, coming on for Salah, to now having a real conversation about, can we actually leave Salah out? And, we do have the options to do that.
Karl, you and I will just begin the second half here, which begins with a goal against us. The first thing of note, 48 minutes. It is Darwin Núñez. Rafa Silva ball. Fairly basic thing for us to deal with. Low driven cross. Ibrahima Konate sort of gets his feet in a muddle. It goes through him and therefore finds its way to Nunez, who has a simple trap and finish past Ali. There's not much the keeper can do when you've got a striker standing square in the middle of the goal like that. It does come down to being honest enough to say that it's a mistake. It's a fault on Konate's part. For whatever that's worth. I suppose what's most disappointing about it is, I guess those things can happen for sure, and it'd be interesting to see what you think about how we responded to it, but it seemed to give them a foothold, and we seemed to get a little bit scatty and less than ideal in our reaction to it. Talk to me around the goal itself, and if there's anything there that, maybe earlier on could have been done differently. Should that cross have been blocked from Silva? What do you reckon?
Probably in midfield is where we should have ideally stopped that. But there's no real reason to think that there was any danger to come of that any more than there was in the first half. It's one guy down the right-hand side and he's got to beat a defender, a goalkeeper, and another centre-back in the middle to actually make that a perfect cross for a goal scoring chance. It's unusual that would end up in a goal, and it was just a moment. It was just a mistake. You can't and you don't need to stop every single attack that teams have. And so I think, if we look at giving up possession a little bit easily in midfield, or maybe not closing down the cross well enough by jumping in a little bit more aggressively, unless everybody else is in tune, and that's how you do it normally, all you do when you make those movements is leave other spaces elsewhere, which can be more dangerous and give up more of a goal-scoring chance than they otherwise would have had with just what was effectively a bit of a nothing cross from the right-hand side. I think it was just literally a moment of off-balance and didn't quite get his feet sorted out, and obviously has gone with it from his left foot instead of his right foot as usual, so just one of those things, just a moment for a young defender, and as good as he was in the first half, those are the moments of consistency and concentration which you have to have every single moment of every game, obviously, at the very highest end, to be a starter and to be a winner.
Dave, if you're back with us, I've been desperately trying to think of how I could sneak in some sort of a Darwin and evolution comment into my stuff here, and I'm not even going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. So I want everyone to know that shit pun is going to be avoided, because what happens after that goal from Nunez, and he takes it very well, to be fair to the kid, with great confidence, is that, I think there's a shot from him a couple of minutes later, it's over the top, and then on 54 minutes, it's a kind of a weird attempt at a header from him from another Silva cross, and then we see Thiago picking up a yellow on 57. 59, we need a great Ali save from an Everton shot after Ibrahima Konate lost possession again, just up slightly advanced position on the right hand side. They attack, and the Everton shot needs a good save from Ali, which we've come to take for granted on such a regular basis. And then on 60, those three substitutes that you mentioned come on. It's Bobby Firmino, Diogo Jota, and Jordan Henderson for Thiago, for Sadio, and for Mo. And you can see exactly what it is that Jurgen's thinking, right? Even though it is 2-1 and we've started to cough up possession and we've started to cough up a couple of opportunities, you can see what he's thinking. He's got to manage his squad. It's a massive game at the weekend. This is just what was going to happen anyway. The choice of personnel to take on and take off, I'm interested to hear your take on that. So let's just pause it there and get exactly that from you, because I think your take was that it didn't really have the immediate impact that we might want. We'll see that more in terms of the match incidents. And just, sorry to go on a bit, but in the immediate aftermath, I've very little in my match notes here, except that on 62, that's 2 minutes after, Tarap takes out Naby Keita. And then there's that whole, they want a penalty incident. And then on 69 minutes, they bring on Maite for Tarap. Nothing's happening, Dave. And even though I had the feeling, like you, perhaps this was not what we wanted from these substitutions. You'd have to say that even though it was a bit of a nothing part of the game, they certainly had no impetus as a result of our substitutions. So at least there's that.
They got a bit more drive through midfield. It became a bit easier for them to play through us because we only had 2 midfielders instead of 3. Because one of our midfielders decided he was playing as a right winger. I saw some very, very silly lads who are the typical type of lads tweeting just before the substitutions, hopefully Henderson for Keita. The other one agreed, and then the first one said, Naby proving he can't be trusted in big games again, right. Which was just a very bizarre approach to take. When the substitution was made, they said Henderson was going to settle us down and keep the ball better. Naby completed 92% of his passes on the night, as did Thiago. Henderson completed only 81%, and as we know, plays far safer passes. Naby had 17 ground duels, of which he won 10. Thiago had 8 and won 3. Henderson had 2 and won none of them. Henderson gave the ball away 11 times in 30 minutes. Naby gave it away 12 times in the 80 odd that he played, 87, 88. And I think Thiago was 10 times in the 61 minutes. So Henderson giving the ball away more in half the amount of time than Thiago. So the idea that he was coming on to offer anything, I'm not really sure where it came from. He lost the ball 3 times in the first 4 minutes he was on the pitch. He just coughed it up and then played some shit cross into the box. And other than that, ran around a bit. Did play one really good pass late on for Jota, but that substitution didn't work. It weakened us in midfield, and I thought they got impetus from then. We had no shape, and they found it a lot easier to play through us. They were able to get their transitions going a bit quicker. But they got tired, is the simple fact of it. They got tired. It's very hard to play at our intensity when you don't have the ball. Like, we had the ball for 66% of the game, which means for 2/3 of the game, they were chasing round like blue arse flies trying to get the ball and then trying to very quickly transition into their attacking phases. And that takes it out of your legs. And obviously, as we saw, their manager only made 3 substitutions. He didn't go for the 5 like ours did. So I think their players got tired, which allowed us to come back in. I think we got a bit of an energy bump with Bobby coming on for Mane. I thought Mane had started to look a little bit tired. Obviously, the Senegal, Egypt games were very taxing on both him and Mo. Jota for Mo wasn't really a surprise. Now, I think I agree with Lubo here in the chat. I don't think Mo played badly. Second half, he started to look a little worse. First half, I thought he was absolutely fine. I think he misses.
It's not even that though, Dave. It's not that he's playing badly. It's this grey area where what I think I've been quite clear about what I've been trying to say, and I think Karl.
Oh no,
as well.
and you and Karl have, but I think there's an overwhelming majority on social media that were saying during the game, oh, another Salah stinker. And I was watching it thinking, I don't know what you're really watching, because he miscontrols 2 balls where he clearly puts his hand up to try and block the light from his eyes, and he misses the chance. But it's not like it's an easy chance. It's a 1v1 with the keeper has an advantage on the angle. But I'll get more worried about Salah when he stops making runs, when he stops getting big chances. That's when I'll actually worry about Mo. If Andy Robertson hadn't skied his cross 2.5 feet over Mo's head, Mo would have had a simple back post header after about 25 minutes and he would have scored. And I think the conversation around him, not what the conversation you and Karl were having, but I think the conversation in general would be a little bit different about Mo. I think people have gotten... Mo is judged by a different standard than other players. Because we know what he's capable of at his very best, I think people expect that every single week. And as Karl said earlier, it's just not really sustainable. There's nobody, bar Messi, who does that, for entire seasons. But I thought it was the right time to take Mo off, and you keep him fresh for the game at the weekend, whether he starts or he's wanted off the bench. So I thought those two subs gave us at least a bit more energy. Now, again, the commentator I was watching was just coming out with mad stuff. And she said that this was the co-commentator. She said that she was looking at some statistics earlier on, and that Jota and Henderson were, and I quote, by far the best pressers in Liverpool's squad. Well, I've double checked that with Gags, who obviously is the don of pressing, and Henderson's not anywhere close to being one of our best pressers. He's just middle of the pack. So I'm not really sure where that idea comes from, but it is people like her saying that gets that stuff repeated. It's people on other podcasts or on other avenues of media saying, well, Salah's stinking the place out, that feeds those nonsensical narratives that aren't really in keeping with what you're actually seeing on the pitch. Salah was fine today.
Yeah, and the point being that we need superhero Mo if we're going to win all the 4 trophies.
Yeah,
and I want all the 4 trophies. So fucking let's get superhero Mo back. It's where we're going, I guess. But there are some bits left to talk about, and another goal at least as well to have a chat about, Karl, and you and I can take that one on. There is a chance on 81 minutes. Henderson with Bobby Firmino inside him goes deep with a cross to Diaz, where I guess if he had squared it across the 6-yard box, it looks as if Bobby's got a tap in, but he does a bit of a deeper cross to Diaz, and it's not a fantastic ball, and Diaz has to improvise with his left foot, if I recall correctly, and he kind of fluffs his lines a bit. We had the lovely spectacle of Ali sort of half Cruyff turning, half doing something else on Silva on 82 minutes and just about getting away with it, which we could all have done without. On 83, Jota has a shot deflected over for a corner. 84, Trent, a shot deflected over for a corner. And on 85, they bring on Mario for Ramos. 2 minutes later, we are 2 goals to the good again, and it is Diaz. I think he deserves it on the basis of his performance. I was really, really impressed with this kid all night. Naby Keita drove forward brilliantly to take opportunity that was presented to him. I have to echo what Dave was saying. I can't understand how anyone could criticise that kid's performance tonight. I thought he was great. He slides a through ball, which on first look looks like it's absolutely world class. On second look, it does get a deflection off Otamendi, which brings it into the path of Diaz. Probably would have got there anyway from his original pass. Diaz rounds the keeper and it finishes past the wonderfully named Odysseus to put us 3-1 up. The game isn't quite over, and just stick with me because we just take the last couple of incidents as well and get your take on the goal then and the last part of the game. We bring on Joe Gomez and Milner on 88 for Trent and Naby. There's a bad head clash between Otamendi and Fab that kind of has everyone worried on 89 minutes, and I think there's about 5 minutes or so taken up in the recuperation of both lads, who both come back on, so it appears no harm done. And then right at the death, 96th minute, I believe, perhaps into the 97th, there's an opportunity for the tie to be effectively over, and Jota really should bury it. A beautiful through ball executed by Henderson, to be fair, and Diogo should do much better. It's like, I know it's not an easy chance, but then again, when you consider the kid that we're talking about here with his ability to finish, and it really would have put the tin hat in the tie, you would imagine. Talk to me about that final sequence of the match, Karl, and the goal. And what I'll do then is I'll go back to Dave for his wrap-up thoughts and finish the show with you.
Can I quickly touch on the Henderson-Jota pressing mystery tour?
Oh yeah, lovely.
So I wondered about that because nonsense springs to mind initially when you talk about them being the best pressers. I know that both of them do it with intent and with vigour, but I wouldn't say that either of them win a huge amount. So I quickly went and had a look. I realised Dave wasn't exactly quoting here, and by saying someone is the best is very vague and open as to what you mean by is the best, but it took me about 2 seconds to find out what this person has obviously done, and that is go to FBref, sort the entire squad by number of presses this season, and those are the top 2. I don't think that number of presses made, which is just applying pressure to someone in possession, whether you win the ball or not, whether the team gets the ball or not, it's literally just making that movement, making that action. That's where Jota and Henderson are the top two. Actually, by percentage of wins, they're 14th and 18th in the squad out of the players who regularly play a certain bunch of minutes. So definitely not the best, but just the ones who have done the most. That's the only thing that I can think that was meant, just to clear that one up. Match-wise, I think there was a period there after they'd had that little, exciting period and the crowd were getting all noisy and all the rest of it, and it looked like they were on top and stuff, and fine, they were for a little period, but I think by about 63 minutes, I think it was, we were talking about when we were watching, we got the ball and didn't give it to them for about 4 minutes, and they didn't get in our half for that period of 4 minutes, and the crowd had nothing to do but whistle and then get bored in that 4 minutes period. That was a really, really important one for us. It was just after the subs, and we did keep giving it away from the subs. Dave's absolutely right about that. There was about 3 times in the first 3 or 4 minutes where very, very sloppily we gave it away with passes that didn't need to be made, crosses which were overhit and all the rest of it. But we also stopped them pouring forward in the way that they had been before that. The last little bit of game, honestly, I think it was largely the same as the first half. We should have scored at least twice more. And there were opportunities like the Jota one was obviously the biggest one that we didn't score, which we should have done. And it probably would have, again, wrapped the tie up. 3 goals away from home, even though away goals are no longer a thing. I think if you win, you score 3 times, you've got to be pretty happy with the night's work, even if there was a mistake, even if you conceded a goal, even if it wasn't all your own way. You're in a Champions League quarter-final. It's not going to be. I think you have to be pretty hard-headed and pretty obnoxious if you just think that Liverpool should, at this stage of this competition, just dominate every single match and have it all their own way and just cruise through against every single opposition. That's just not going to happen. And so I think the third goal was definitely warranted. I think the 2-goal margin of victory was the least that we deserved. And overall, I'm very, very happy that Luis Diaz got it, and also very, very happy that whoever threw some sort of pole at him did not have as good aim as Diaz did himself.
Yeah, that was a shocker, and wasn't quite sure what I was seeing first time round. But boy, you could absolutely notice it as we got a couple of replays. You would like to think there might be a little bit of an inquiry there as to how that kind of shit can happen in a football stadium, and maybe something may happen as a result. But we'll wait without bated breath on that one. Karl, I'll be back to you to finish.
Marco says it was a walking stick. Some poor old fuck's going to be hobbling home tonight, leading to one side, dancing around the streets.
I think it was the poles from the flags.
Yeah, I think it's so. They all look quite uniform. They did look like flag poles, but that first one did look a bit heftier. I will admit.
It's very aerodynamic.
Yeah, so we'll wait for replays. Back to you in a sec, Karl, to finish off, and Dave, I'll do exactly that job with you now. Sum up thoughts, man, as we follow this remarkable team of ours into another second leg in a high-stakes European match with us ahead, as we look forward to a weekend where we are facing the most sort of obnoxiously unfair challenge in football history with equanimity and great optimism. It's a wonderful time to be a Red, you have to say. And we can't, for all that we might be quibbling about minor stuff, that's what we do here, as we're supposed to do on a post-match show. The overall picture here is so fucking rosy, it's kind of hard to get your head around at times, isn't it?
Yeah, entirely. I'm just watching a replay of the video of the idiot throwing the stick at Diaz, and Bobby just sort of shakes his hand at him in a really camp kind of way. It's very funny. Yeah, I mean, look, how could you not enjoy this season? It's going to get stressful the longer it goes on, because the longer it goes on, the more possible a quadruple becomes. And it's never been done before, so It's a big deal while it's possible. But as I said with Gags recently, I think if we win the FA Cup and that's it, I think that's still a successful season. If we win the league, that's amazing. If we win the Champions League, that's incredible. If we win 2 of the 3, regardless, it's going to be an incredible season for us. And the really exciting thing is that you can look at this team with Ali signed up long term, Trent and Robbo and Virgil signed long term, Ibu signed long term, Fab signed up long term. Now we'll see what happens with Naby in the summer, but Thiago has a couple of years left in his deal. Having all of them and Jota and Diaz long term, knowing they're going to be there, knowing that Elliott's going to get better and better, and Curtis Jones and Costas Tsimikas and Joe Gomez and all these other lads, like knowing that we're going to have them moving forward is what is really exciting. It's not just about this season, it's about the longer view of keeping this club at the upper echelon of world football and being able to savour this not just as a fluke or a short-term thing. This is something we'll be able to enjoy for years to come now. And I know a lot of people are panicking about Klopp leaving in 2 years, but he's not leaving and taking everybody with him. All the great players are still going to be there. He's going to leave behind an incredible team. He's not leaving behind the team he took over. He's going to leave behind the team that he's building. And he's still building it. And that's the thing to remember. You don't just build a team and sit in your hands. Jurgen wants to further improve this team. He'll find ways to further improve this team over the next couple of years while he's still here. And, we all hope he extends. But like this season's incredible and should really whet the appetite for what's to come over the next couple of years as well. Because whenever we had a really good team when Gerrard was in the team, you were always worried. Initially it was, if we don't win anything, Gerrard might go. And then we win the Champions League and then he almost left. And then after that, the next really good team had Mascherano, Alonso and Torres. And the concern always was, what happens when they leave? Like, they're going to leave, and then they all left. And then the next team was the Suarez, Coutinho, Sterling team, and then they all left as well. But now you can look at this team and you can really enjoy it. Because number one, they've had the success. They've won a Champions League, they've won a league title, they've won a League Cup. And all of them still want to be here. Like, I know there's a contract impasse with Mo or whatever, but he wants to be at the club. The Egyptian Minister of Sports came out today and said that he advised Salah to leave, and Salah told him his priority is to stay. So these lads want to be here. None of these lads are looking around, well, maybe 1 or 2, but, nobody who's in the top 5 or 6 or 7 players at the club is looking around and thinking, I'd rather be there than here. Everyone who's really, really important to us only wants to be with us. We're no longer prey waiting for vultures to appear and snap up our wonderful little Brazilian or the manic Uruguayan or the rampaging Scouser. All of our lads want to be here. They want to have seasons like this. They don't just want to have this season. They'll want to do this again next season. And it'll just fuel the fire for them. If they win it all this season, I guarantee they turn around next season with the same mentality of, well, now we have to defend it. Now we have to go again because we didn't get to defend our Champions League in fair circumstances because of all the COVID stuff that was going on. There was a lot of controversy around that second leg, and there was also the Adrian factor. We didn't get to defend our league title properly because Virgil got hurt, and then Joe got hurt, and then Joel got hurt, and we were rocking out to play teams with Nat Phillips and Reece Williams and Jordan Henderson at centre-back. So this time, they'll want to go and defend everything they win. And they'll have all the extra bumps and bruises and scars from having gone and won it a second time. Winning it once is one thing. Going and winning it again is even more impressive. If we pick off a Champions League or a league title this season, that just absolutely blows away any suggestion that we were, a flash in the pan, and proves that Jurgen Klopp is not just one of the great managers, he's the great manager in world football, because nobody else, I don't think Simeone could have done what he's done, and I love Simeone, I'm his biggest fan. I don't think he could have done what Klopp has done at this club. I know Pep couldn't have done it because, he wouldn't have got 200 million to spend on fullbacks for a start. Jurgen Klopp is one of one. Truly, truly special man. And all of this is about his legacy, the legacy he'll continue to create next season and the season after, and the legacy he'll want to leave behind, which is for his team to go on and be successful. You look at Bob Paisley, and much of the success in the early era of Paisley was attributed to Bill Shankly because of the foundations that Shankly left behind. I think Klopp will want to do similar. So I'm so excited with the rest of the season. And then obviously, as I said, what we can accomplish over the next 3, 4, 5 years as it stretches out in front of us. This is not going away anytime soon.
No, it's a fucking era, man. It's an era, and we're into it, but it's also not ending, as you say, anytime soon. And what's also not ending anytime soon is your ongoing podcast. Let the folks know what they've got to listen to from yourself over the next while. For example, I do know that you and I and Harry are back for the City game at the weekend, and then it's a return of the trio from tonight, myself, yourself, and Karl, for Benfica home. But outside of that, what else have we got?
Two-footed pod every day at 4 p.m, Daily Red every day at lunchtime. I am scheduled to obviously be on Raw, like you said. However, I do turn 40 on Friday, so I might have to take to the bed and cry to myself for a fortnight or two. So that situation remains fluid. There'll also be a scouted with Karl ahead of both City and then Watford. We might Watford, City, and then the Benfica second leg.
Tremendous. Commiserations on that milestone, brother. We all feel your pain. I feel it more than I feel it 8 years more than you do. So you'll be all right. Karl, what about last minute thoughts from yourself then, just to finish up the show? Any sum up ideas, and exactly the same thing at the end, and anything you've got that you want to give a shout out to, please do.
Like I said, as good as we could have hoped for, I think. A win, a comfortable lead, take it back to Anfield, where we are generally very, very good. Although, of course, we are on a current run of 1 defeat in a row in the Champions League at Anfield. So let's get that right for starters.
Yeah.
A couple of stats from the game, I suppose, because that's just what I do to wrap things up. Usually in games where teams have lots and lots of possession, you see it recycled along the back, and the centre-backs tend to have the most touches of the ball. That's the usual way it goes. Today, just to underline what Dave was speaking about earlier, the man with the most touches on the pitch, a whopping 106, was a certain Mr. Naby Keita. Very, very few times he lost the ball, misplaced passes, got tackled a couple of times, I think, but nothing too major if he's trying to break lines and open up play in the way that he did. Of course, does still claim an assist despite that very slight deflection on the pass, and more shots than I remember him having for quite some time as well. So an overall very, very good performance, and I think Jurgen was particularly pleased by his display, judging by post-match stuff as well. Only other statistic I will say for tonight was, again, to echo what was spoken about earlier with Trent's passing. Always very, very good, and like you said, decent with the short range passing as well. But long balls, those switches of play that we love so much, 11 out of 13 accurate tonight. He's not just good at what he does, he's just ridiculously consistent with them as well. Hopefully that is a good sign of what's to come in the next few weeks, because when Trent is on form, Liverpool generally do very, very well, and these are big, big games which are going to define just how good this season is. For me, I've just posted one in the Discord group, but I've done a piece tonight after the match on Mohamed Salah and the question of what we need from him, what's Klopp got to be thinking about now ahead of Man City and the games which are to come. I will be on Scouted ahead of the Man City game and again before the second leg against Benfica. Thanks to Marco for doing the first leg with Dave and myself as well. And I'll be back on Raw for the second leg as well next week, 2 weeks.
Tremendous. Lots of stuff for you to get your ears around from both Dave and Karl, make sure you do. I can't recommend those two boys to you as enough, especially when they're working in tandem. Great shows as ever, and informative to those of us who perhaps don't get an opportunity to see as much football as the two guys do. I always love to listen to them assessing and weighing up our potential opponents. I find it both informative and entertaining, so make sure that you give your ears over to whatever they're doing whenever you can, and reading Karl's stuff whenever you can as well. We will be back, like I said, every few days from now on, because that's how good our team is, because we're in everything. We're in it all, and we continue to be winning games, and then long may that continue. I hope the next time I'm chatting to you, it'll be about a win as well against Manchester City. How sweet would that be? How real would things start to look? How much crystal would things start to appear if we can get that one over the line as well? Regardless, we'll be here with you to talk you through it, as we will for every game between now and the end of the season. And hopefully at the end of it, we'll be chatting about the 4 Trophy Reds. Thanks to all our Discord community who've been chipping in all the way through. Really appreciate you folks. Nice to follow the chat as we go. Always informative, and spins our chats a little bit in terms of reacting to it, and especially if you put in anything sort of factual or information based, it's always good as well. We can react to that in real time as well. Massively appreciate you and all who support Anfield Index Pro in any way. I've been Trev Downey. You heard Dave Hendrick. You heard Karl Matchett. Guy Drinkle, as always, is producing wonderfully in the background. We'll be back with you very, very soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.